Hello everyone, Chris here, and this is going to be a tutorial on how to do a 27+2 fast castle into a 3TC boom. This is going to be more of a basic tutorial, so it's going to be more getting you into the idea of FCing, getting you into FCing, of course, being fast castling, getting you into the idea of booming, the different, basic things you need to know to really make it work. This is a very basic build and it works with any civ. You can do better builds, faster ups, all that kind of thing with civs with economy bonuses. But in this case we're going to be using Goths. You could also use Saracens, that kind of thing. Just, as a very basic civ, just so we could show that we could do it with any civ. We're doing this Goths as well, partly because it's a strategy you might want to do this with. If you're playing beginner arena, it might be quite a good idea to boom like this. Especially as Goths, you do want to get to the later game options in this case. So without further ado, I'm just going to show the build order on screen now. You can pause here, take a screenshot, whatever. It's a YouTube video, so you can do whatever you like with it. But yeah, it's kind of a reasonably simple build order. There's going to be no pushing deer, because pushing deer is something a lot of beginners might struggle with. And yeah, it's going to be relatively simple. I'm going to make sure I build in as much room for error as possible. I'll make sure I try and explain the things I can, whenever I can. So I don't want to make this intro like more than 3 minutes long, so let's get into the video. So you start by queuing your villagers and building 2 houses. You also want to find your sheep right away. So you always start with the 4 sheep, of course, then another 2 sheep, and then another 2 sheep in a separate group. So you'll have 8 sheep in total. You just really want to get those at the start, but you want to make sure you get your first 4 sheep ASAP so you can start your villagers working. As soon as those 2 houses are built, and for the first few villagers, we're going to go to wood. Looks like we found all our sheep. Oh, we have both boar inside as well. You always have a set amount of basic resources. They might also be outside, so that's why you want to look outside first, in case they're stolen by another player. So we now have 7 on our sheep, and 6 on sheep, and that brings us to 7 population. So now we're going to want to add some to wood. I think here is a good place for a wood line, so let's build it there. Maybe not there, specifically there. It's a bit better. So by the time we take in our first boar, I'm assuming you are able to lure in your boars, but by the time you take in your first boar, you should have consumed 4 sheep, unless you push a very early deer, for example. Make sure, it doesn't take much APM to just, grab one of your sheep and then just set a few rally points by holding shift while right click on the final one without holding shift. So it's useful like that to use your sheep to scout. A few efficiency tips. Make sure you've got 4 on the lumber camp, 2 on one side, 2 on the other is a good little guide to go for. So we now have our 4 on wood, so we're going to get our boar with the 12th population, which is the 11th villager. But for keeping it simple sake, so you could clearly see it up in the top corner what we're at, we'll call it the 12th pop. The villager after that needs to make a house. We are Goths, so we kill the boar a little bit faster. And we've scoured out our base. The next villager needs to go and build a mill. I usually go for, I make a house and then send a villager here, unless I need otherwise. But honestly, at this point, I'm just going to make it basic. So as soon as you learn the first boar, your next villagers will go build a house, and then a mill, and you want a mill, have 4 villagers milling the berries. So when your boar has about 160 food is very far distance, but if your second boar is relatively close, and maybe the boar has 100 food in it, you might still be able to get it in time. We're Goths, so we could actually leave it a little bit later. At the same time, around 17 pop, or 18 pop, you want to build the next two houses. Yeah, that's enough. So we've got 4 on berries, but we're actually going to add one more at this point. It's, as I've said in a previous video, I will reiterate it now because this is more of a beginner tutorial. It's a little bit muddy when it comes between getting your first boar and then 19 population. Because all those villagers go to food, but you kind of mix it up with the food sources a little bit. You just want to end up with 4 berries on the end if you're pushing deer. If you're not pushing deer though, with this build order specifically, you do want to add a 5th one. So let's get back into the game. Very important, 17-18 pop though, you start building these houses. I tend to build them against the wall. You could also build it as an internal house wall, that's also a little bit more useful. So now we have 5 villagers there. And now we're at 19 pop. This next villager is going to go build a lumber camp. Gonna move it a bit further down. We're already starting to think of, you know, where's our TC placement gonna be? I'm thinking near our gold here, mining camp here maybe, and then one on the stone. Around 19 pop to 21 pop, you want to start adding your farms. Around the time these sheep expire. You could always use villagers to cut down the stragglers just to make sure that you're able to fit farms around your TC. So from 19 pop to 23, we want to be having 4 on wood. So we're going to have 8 on wood in the Dark Age here. Make sure your villagers are also still spread out. Not too important, but it's a nice efficiency tip, and it will definitely save you resources in the end. So after those 4 on wood, you want to add another 1 to the food here. Well, another 2. The reason I'm sending them to the straggler right now is just so I could chop it so I could place a farm there later. Okay, so now we're at 25 pop, we want to make 2 more villagers to go to gold. This is kind of the basics of an arena FC. You end it with the last 2 villagers going on gold if you don't have loom. If you have loom, then instead of making an extra villager on food at the 25th pop villager, send them to take gold instead, so you have 3 on gold. And click up at 27 population. The whole point of a fast castle is to have your economy in Dark Age, and over time it will build. So basically, ever since I built this lumber camp, I've been making farms as I could afford, of course remembering to make sure I still save for the mining camp. And we're at 7 farms. You could do it with 6. If you have deer, you could do it with basically none, but you know, you want to add the farms, have the Dark Age economy. So you can do whatever you're scouting now. It's a little bit of a waiting simulator when you click up. It's always a good idea to make sure your village is working at least decently efficiently. Good time to reflect, think of your strategy. You're scouting them out around about this time if you're not pushing deer, so you know you're going to get some information. When your villagers that are currently taking the sheep run out, then you can just quickly send them to take some stragglers, for example. If your sheep finish very quickly, then you'll be taking stragglers before you're even close to Feudal Age. So we're about to hit Feudal Age, so we're going to build our market and a blacksmith. And create 2 villagers. These 2 villagers are going to go to wood. One on each lumber camp, of course, is a bit more efficient that way. When you're building a blacksmith and market always 2 villagers, blacksmith 1. This also applies if you're going up without barracks, for example, you stable and archer range, use 2 villagers. So now this villager is about crate, and then we can click up. So now we're on our way to Castle Age. We want to get the lumber camp upgrade as soon as possible, and then as soon after that as possible the farm upgrade. I'm going to be taking a villager that's forward. It could be from, you know, these villagers cutting stragglers or whatever. Stragglers are just kind of a good place to dump your villagers, really. But I'm taking one from berries because my berries are forward. I'm going to start building a few houses. I also want to build an additional farm. Now we have the farm upgrade, it's going to be quite useful. The farm upgrade, well, when a farm is built, then it gets the food from the farm upgrade. So if it finishes researching during construction, you're fine. It's only if the farm is constructed, like 100% constructed, after the, well, before the upgrade hits, that you won't get the benefit. So these villagers can't stragglers very, very far. Now these villagers are finished, we're going to send them towards the gold. And we're actually going to send these guys from gold onto wood because we don't need the gold. I like to save maybe 100 in the bank, it's just quite useful if you ever need it. This villager is idle, make sure you keep mashing your idle villager hotkey. So we're going to have some villagers here, 3 villagers here, 4 is also okay, depends what you're doing. If you look at our resources, we can now afford 2 TCs, and we're almost at Castle Age. So we get up, build our TCs, we make sure we create our villagers, we get a lumber camp upgrade, that's very essential. In this build order, we're not taking relics or anything, we're just going with it really. So in this one, we want to really be sending villagers to wood right away. But you could also be sending them to gold. This is your least important TC, the one on the stone. Sure, you're going to have use for stone later on, but as Goths, for example, you only really care about having 1 castle. And that's so you could get Anarchy and Perfusion, the tech, so you can make your unique units in your barracks, the Huskarl, which is a very strong option as Goths. So we don't really, we could keep going on gold, but we don't need it quite as much as other resources at the moment. So we do want to make sure that we're keeping our boom running. Talking of efficiency, that was quite bad. So you just want to keep your TCs running, make sure you have a TC hotkey assigned, because you're going to be cycling through them to create villagers quite a bit. As I said though, stone is our least important resource. We only really want 5 by the time we've clicked up, and we're going to have more than that by then if we just keep them going. We do need gold though, so honestly I would say the first thing you should really prioritize is making farms with these villagers. That way you're not wasting as much time. So the one thing we really don't want is idle TCs. A good aim here is for generic 27+2 is you want about 50 villagers by the 20-minute mark. So we're definitely going to make that mark here. We're going to overshoot it actually. So just to show you our current numbers, we're a little bit short on farmers at the moment. We're at a good position, but we don't have the amount we need. A little bit of caution as well, we also need to make sure we're building our houses. You can really just like set a whole bunch up like that if you want to. I tend not to, but for this one, this basic build order, I'm gonna be like, sure, why not? Always make sure when you're queuing a villager is in a TC that's probably going to create the villager first. So if it's only got one villager queued, it creates it. You don't want your TC then sitting doing nothing. So make sure you pick the one that's going to create the villager first. If you only have one queued up in each. We're aiming for 30 farmers. We got 24 plus these two. Because these villagers count as builders until it's built. So we're very close to the amount we need. We have quite a bit of gold, so it's about time we now start getting wheelbarrow. We're maybe a little bit late on that one. We should now have a 30 farmers. Yep, there we go. And around the 22-minute mark is generally a good benchmark. You want to build your 2 military buildings. I actually think I'm going to build a university. You can build a monastery, it could be quite useful. If they haven't picked up relics by now, then it could be a good idea. But with Goss, I like the option of being able to research hand cannoneers. After wheelbarrow, you want hand cart pretty much right away. It is quite a large economy boost. We now have 5 villagers on stone, so we don't have to care as much about gathering stone. We can add a farm or 2 here and there. This wood line is getting a little bit crowded, so we want to move a bunch of them elsewhere. It's fine to do that. Make sure by this point you're also still not overcrowding your TCs with like 4 villagers in one. So right now if we wanted to, we could just buy our way up, you know, buy 100 food. It's fine to do that if you wanted to. I think this AI didn't bother to get loom. So let's cancel these villagers and we should be able to click up. It's fine to idle your TC just for a small amount of time if you want to click up. We're also going to get loom because I'm going to plan to build forward here. If you're going to build forward, be very, very careful. You could like just outright lose the game at this point just because you get a bit too cocky and build a bit too forward. You're also going to want to start getting researches that you need. We're going to go infantry, so we're going to get skill mill armor. Heavy plow is also quite important to get at this point. It's also important to keep your TCs running. Gold mining upgrade, of course, is always welcome. It's our stone mining TC that's researching the Imperial Age upgrade, so it doesn't matter so much that that's currently idle. Always rebuild your lumber camps whenever you can. Build them just that little bit closer. I'm also going to start building houses outside just because it frees up a decent bit of valuable real estate, to be honest. Squires is definitely very good to get for Huskarls. It's also useful to get a castle for conscription for most civs. And it's generally just nice to be Goths because they have the faster ranks. I'm gonna build this here because it's really advantageous. I'm also going to get pikemen because it's very useful to mix in halberdiers into any army. think I'm going to start with adding a bit of halberdiers. I like to early, if I see my gold start getting overcrowded with quite a bit of villagers. As you saw, we had like 6 on this one tile. It's really quite useful to just, you know, move them to another lumber camp, another mining camp if you have the space for them. Our gold income right now has dropped because I sent those villagers there, but it's not a problem. Well, it's still a good price. It could also be useful selling wood and food. You just gotta make sure you don't accidentally cripple yourself. We do want to create anarchy as soon as possible. Were those villagers carrying any gold? That's unfortunate. You can also get the second gold mining upgrade if you have it as your civ. So just to meet out the army a bit, gonna add a decent little bit. Because of course we did do a 3 TC boom, we're not technically full boomed. We still, you know, do need to still keep making villagers. Only 110 population at the moment. Gotta make sure we queue up those farms. And I'm going to stop this tutorial here now that we're a decent bit into it. As you see, we're starting to make army, we're starting to get the upgrades. Oh, that's very convenient timing. Thank you, AI. Yeah, I think based on population, the AI barbarian will resign if it's on a low mode. I guess that's just one of the win conditions. Anyway, this is just a very basic tutorial on how to 3TC boom. Carrying you through the castle age. You want to get the 27-minute imperial times. You're going to maybe have a bit of issues with this at first. Honestly, you do quite a bit better if you do learn more advanced booms. But it's definitely a good place for a beginner, especially if maybe you're a god flank and you don't think they're going to be aggressive. It's definitely something you could really pull off well. If you're VS... if you're a pocket, for example, and you want to just come very, very quickly, especially if you're via something like an elf civ, they can be notoriously slow, especially newer players. Newer players don't really know how to handle the longer booms. It's like the longer a boom is, I've seen a lot of people really spiral out by minutes, and it doesn't work quite as well. But if you just focus on a 3 TC boom, you manage to master it quite well and get at least a half decent time, then it's actually going to be very, very strong for you. So I definitely recommend it. So hope you learned something here today. I'll probably do more build order videos soon. This is just one I wanted to get out as kind of a basics. I'm not sure whether I plan on doing like a direct FC breakdown, just kind of a general concept thing where I could really talk about how to properly make judgments in a fast castle to determine what you're doing. But that's for another day. There's also just arena strategy in general that needs to be discussed, and when it comes to picking your civilization strategy, that can actually be quite a bit difficult for newer players. So I would say if you know how to boom and you boom well, if you have a stronger civ, you're definitely going to win with it. So that is all I've got for this video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something.